You ever see a massive bridge, a sprawling new airport, or a gigantic dam and just wonder, how? How does something that complex get built without everything just falling into complete and utter chaos? Well, it turns out there's often an invisible architecture holding it all together, a master rulebook for these global mega projects. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that very rulebook, the FIDIC Red Book.
I mean, really think about that for a second. You've got to coordinate thousands of people, manage millions of parts, and spend billions of dollars, often across different countries and cultures. How do you possibly build something on that scale and not have it end in a total mess of arguments and lawsuits? Well, that is the exact high-stakes problem the FIDIC Red Book was created to solve.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll cover what the Red Book actually is. Then, we'll meet the three key players involved. After that, we'll get into the real nitty-gritty, how it handles money and changes. We'll also look at the playbook for when things go wrong. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see why this thing matters so much.
All right, let's start with the absolute basics. First things first, what exactly is this document that everyone calls the Red Book? So, FIDIC. It stands for the International Federation of Consulting Engineers. Basically, they're the people who create the standardized instruction manuals, the contracts, for the global construction industry. And the Red Book? That's their superstar, their most famous contract. It's designed specifically for projects where the client, called the employer, is the one who provides the design. And the contractor's job is, to just build it.
Now, here's where it gets really clever. The contract isn't a one-size-fits-all document. It has this genius two-part structure. You can think of the general conditions as the project's main operating system, like Windows or Mac OS. It's the standard universal set of rules that works for pretty much any project, anywhere. Then you have the particular conditions. That's like your settings menu. It's where you customize everything, plugging in all the project-specific details to make it a perfect fit.
And this right here, this is the secret sauce. This is why the Red Book is trusted all over the world. It's not just about all the detailed clauses, it's about its core philosophy. The whole thing is designed from the ground up to share the project risks fairly between the employer and the contractor. The idea is that no single party gets stuck holding the bag for every unforeseen problem. That balance, that's the key to everything.
Okay, so we've covered the what. Now let's talk about the who. Every single Red Book project really revolves around a cast of three main characters. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. First, you've got the employer. That's the project owner, the one with the vision, the design, and most importantly, the money. Then you have the contractor. They're the builders, the ones on the ground making it all happen. And sitting right in the middle of them is the engineer, who's appointed by the employer to manage and administer the contract.
But hang on, this is a huge deal, and this quote says it all. You see, even though the employer hires and pays the engineer, this clause requires them to act neutrally when making decisions. Think about that. They're not just a mouthpiece for the client. This is what makes the whole system work. It ensures decisions are based on the rules of the contract, not just on who's paying the bills. It's a game changer for building trust.
All right, let's get into the mechanics. Time to look at the two things that cause the most headaches on any construction site: how people get paid and how you deal with changes to the plan. Do you know how easily arguments over money can pop up, right? Well, the Red Book cuts through all that with a super clear step-by-step process. First, the contractor submits a detailed bill for the work they've done, called a statement. Then, the neutral engineer checks it over and issues what's called an interim payment certificate, or IPC. And finally, the employer pays exactly what's on that certificate. It's a clean, transparent workflow. No arguments. Okay, but what happens when the plan changes? Because, let's be real, it always does. No project ever goes exactly as planned. The contract has a specific tool for this called a variation. It's the official, formal process for the engineer to instruct a change to the original design. It could be anything from using a slightly different material to adding a whole new room. And this brings us to what I call the golden rule. This one sentence from the contract is absolutely critical. It says the contractor can't make any changes on their own initiative. I don't care how small it is or how much sense it makes. They have to wait for that formal instruction from the engineer. This rule single-handedly keeps the project's scope, its schedule, and its budget from spiraling out of control. So the Red Book gives us a clear path for the day-to-day stuff. But what happens when things go really wrong? I'm talking about the big, unexpected problems.
This is where the contract's built-in safety nets are so important. For starters, there's something called an exceptional event. This is for the kind of stuff you see in disaster movies, things that are completely beyond anyone's control. We're talking about natural catastrophes like a massive earthquake, or man-made disasters like war or terrorism. The contract lays out a clear process for how to handle these huge disruptions without the whole project just collapsing. And for the more, well, let's say normal disagreements, there's this brilliant multi-step process for resolving them. It's like a ladder. The whole point is to solve problems at the lowest, simplest level possible. It starts with the neutral engineer making a decision. If someone's not happy, it can go to a special dispute board, or DAB. The contract even forces the parties to try and find a friendly solution. Only if all of that fails, as a last resort, does it go to formal arbitration. The goal is always to avoid a big court battle.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together now. We've seen the rules, we've met the players, we've looked at the processes. But let's ask the big question. Why does a boring old contract like this actually matter? Well, the benefits are just immense. The balanced risk and total clarity create trust. The dispute processes stop projects from getting bogged down in arguments. Because it's a global standard, a team from Japan and a client in Brazil are instantly speaking the same language. And this last one, bankability, that's the ultimate seal of approval. It means that huge financial players like the World Bank see a project as using this contract and they say, yep, we trust this framework, we'll fund it. It's what makes these massive global projects even possible. So, what it all boils down to is this. The Red Book is so much more than just a dusty legal document. It's a living, breathing operating system for human collaboration on a massive scale. It provides a proven framework that guides everyone to communicate clearly, to work together, and to solve problems in a logical, structured way. It turns what could be chaos into a well-managed process.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The FIDIC Red Book is this powerful, mostly invisible system that literally builds our physical world. It kind of makes you wonder, what other hidden rule books are out there? In finance, in technology, in our legal systems, what other invisible frameworks are quietly shaping the world we live in every single day?